This is concept art of one of my favorite strikers, the Panther. Look at its green tint and gorgeous asymmetry. I love asymmetry so much, and that's why the new Gundam is one of my favorite Gundam designs of all times. Although, this Panther is the one that we got in 2023. It is still sleek and dangerous, but significantly different from the concept art. So how do we go from the concept art to this, the 3D playable model? Let's find out. I'm about to show you some exclusive behind the scenes developments and tell the tale of how Mechabreak strikers came to be. Have you ever dreamed about designing your own mecha game? I did. Back in the day, watching Gundam 00, it really made me wonder what it was like to pilot one of those mobile suits. And, growing up, I always wondered, well, if I was going to make a mecha game, how it would look like, or what would I put in it. Growing up, though, does crush your dreams. But it didn't for the CEO of Saison Games, Chris. He seems to possess that mecha spirit. He has a burning desire to make a mecha game and decided to start from scratch. The question then, for me and him and all of the audience here, is where do you start when making a mecha game? Well, apparently in 2015, Saison originally worked with a British indie game developer. This is the concept art from that time. You can see that the mechas here are small in comparison to the massive alien structures floating in deep space. What little that we can see of the mecha seems to point that they're pretty similar to armor cores. You can see that the alternating loadouts that they have like a giant laser cannon on the shoulder or like a rifle that they have. There's also a standard bipedal structure, and this is really cool, but it doesn't seem to be what Saison was looking for. They were looking for something more terrestrial, probably, so this partnership was dissolved. And then in 2017, like in any good training arc, the team at Saison Games sought out some senseis, and they became disciples of veteran Japanese mecha designers who are already working in the industry. Here's a drawing from the Japanese sensei, or one of the Japanese senseis. And you can see that the line art here is very purposeful and efficient. And if you look at the design of this mecha more closely, you might start to have a strange sense of deja vu. I mean, the backpack definitely reminds me of something Gundam, but the shoulder pads and the head, I mean, if you look at that, it awfully looks like Rusty's Alba in Armor Core 6. And after the training arc from Japanese senseis, the Mechabreak team began to put their own spin on things. For example, you can see here, while still retaining the style of the Japanese mecha designers, these designs go a little further. What I really like here is the PH-01 heavy mech. This is a proper chonking artillery mech with the thick reverse joint legs for weight management. You can see that its loadout could consist of a shoulder-mounted laser cannon or a regular cannon, I can't really tell, but also a tri-barrel minigun. One thing that I saw here that was super interesting was the fact that they kept in mind how this heavy machine was going to move. There are particular attentions to transforming pieces and particular attention to the booster position. This would become pretty important later on because a lot of mechs in the 2023 version of Mechabreak that we saw have transforming pieces. For something more mid-weight, let's revisit the Panther. This bad boy can pack so many references in it. I mean, if a burning squid arm isn't enough, let's add a green katana to it as well. The arm actually can serve as a grappling hook of sorts in this art. The Panther also might have been able to shoot some sort of electric net to immobilize its enemies. Admittedly though, these elements never made it to the final build of the Panther we have now, but some elements in this concept art sure did. The shield dagger is something that retained to the actual 2023 build of the game, and the energy shield projection here also lived until now. but it's different as it is now a complex shield ability. And I believe the shield probably stayed because they started fleshing out the world of Mecha Break even more. So there's a thing called EIC crystals, and they're the resource that we'll be fighting over in the game. So that means a lot of the gameplay and lore revolves around those crystals, and in return, shields. So that's probably why the shield ability stayed. Let me quickly show off a little bit more of mechas and the designs, but with notes this time. Starting from the left, you can see that this mecha is referencing the T-95, is that? Some sort of tank. And you can see that the notes, actually you probably can't see because this is all in Chinese, but the notes talk about the importance of movement axes, especially around the joints and the waist. They say that the mobility of each joint must be visible. A funny note from the head says to avoid Gundam-like features, which is, I guess, pretty important because they're trying to avoid that copyright. The Proto-Panzer, that's what I'm going to call it now, in the middle says that you need to mimic muscle structures with the armor. And the reason for doing this is apparently is to act like a protective layer of composite armor so that when the mech receives a hit, you can keep on chunking. The mecha on the right is the Proto-Falcon, the Falcon being the flying mech that's in literally every promotional sort of image they have. The design notes all point to keeping weight off of the frame in order to really supplement that flying capability. And you can see that, the Proto-Panther is based on sort of the F-35 Lightning, and the Proto-Falcon is based on a really fast motorcycle. More on the Falcon, they were experimenting a bit with the weapon loadouts here. We know that the Falcon eventually ended up with dual machine guns and rockets. However, they were also experimenting with a sniper, or maybe even melee. You can see that this is pretty neat stuff, but I think the silhouette of the Falcon is something that we're trying to nail here with this concept art. They were trying different things. If you ever tried to do like anything before, you would know that it is hard to make concepts pop into reality. It's a struggle to translate these really cool designs from paper into 3D digital models. Apparently, originally Mecha Break was also going to be a game for the mobile market, but somewhere along the way, probably between 2017 and 2020, they had to throw everything away and focus on a sort of PC console release. This means they had to massively increase the production value. The transitional period from a mobile game to PC game was apparently one of the darkest hours for them, but I do have a 2020 internal build to show off as the culmination of all their hard work. Now, what I just showed you will be completely different from the final build of the game, or even the alpha that we just saw earlier. You can see that they've massively grinded on production value in the last 3 years. I don't know what all the technical aspects of all of this is, but I do have examples that I can show to show that they have really put some love into crafting this beautiful game. here it is without any of their quote-unquote hard surface modeling technology. And it looks really flat, right? There's no lighting, there's nothing, no shine, no nothing. But here is the final model, and this baby looks gorgeous. This is the final model that you can actually play in the game. And the attention to detail for the moving internal frames is completely blowing my mind. And something that will blow your mind even further is the designers of the game seems to really focus on functionality, right? Even in the design notes for the concept art, they talked about you want to see the movement, you want to see the joints and stuff like that. It has to be like something that you would actually think it can move. And one of the biggest mechas in the game right now is the Tricera. And the Tricera has this transforming ability that allows it to lock down. So when you're playing, you're not even realizing that there is an amazing amount of moving parts animated in this ability. So here is the video of them animating every part of the Tricera transforming. The attention to mechanical detail in this game is rather insane. And if they are this passionate about what is essentially one ability, I mean, this must have taken days, weeks, months of like rigging every little animation, making sure everything is right. I mean, this is a dev team, an art team at least, that really wants this game to succeed. The rounds of the Tricera that it shoots is like, you know, minigun rounds, but apparently they're all calculated in like this ballistic calculation system where you can actually do battle damage to the battlefield, and it's all calculated individually on a bullet to bullet level. So what I think that means is that if you have a Falcon and you're not even shooting at the Falcon, you're shooting at somebody else, when the Falcon moves past and the bullets hits the Falcon flying by, it's still going to do the damage even though if you didn't aim for it. I mean, that sounds really basic, but for something like this, if you want to put that in a larger scale and put that into a fucking battle royale mode, that is an insanely ambitious thing. And I'm very, very impressed with the amount of ballistic damage calculation happening in the background, and you can see that the environments are very destructible actually. And all of this just really gets me excited. I'm sure that there's more cool designs out there that we haven't gotten to see publicly. I mean, there's also the Battle Royale mode that, you know, nobody's allowed to really talk about right now. And this is a really ambitious game, and all of these cool concept art that I got to see and you got to see actually translates into the mechs that we have here. And I appreciate the ability to see into how these models and these mechs were being developed. I am very looking forward to the release of the game, and it might be sooner than you think it will be. I'm going to speculate that it's either Q4 of this year or maybe early 2025. I'm crossing and praying that there will be more public testing soon, and I'll let you guys know as soon as a beta testing is announced publicly or something. So please get some water, touch some grass, and I'll see you next time. Ciao!